We can measure total economic surplus from a graph by adding together the producer surplus and the consumer surplus. So let's say we have this graph here. We have a demand curve and a supply curve. We know that the demand curve will be equal to the marginal benefit of consuming that good, equal to the willingness to pay. And we know that the supply curve will be equal to the marginal cost of producing that good. The total economic surplus, if you go back to our definition, right? The definition of this would be the marginal benefit minus the marginal cost for all the goods that are consumed. So let's just say that the market is going to allocate the quantity and price in here. So a simple supply and demand equilibrium. We would get market equilibrium where supply crosses demand. That would give us a quantity of 200 and a price here. Let's say that price is $50. Okay. So total economic surplus is everything, the marginal benefit minus the marginal cost. The marginal benefit is going to be the demand curve, the height of the demand curve. The marginal cost will be the height of the supply curve. And so we're looking at everything in between those two curves. So below demand, but above supply. And so I'll color those in real quick. All right, so everything below demand and above supply. And so like every single marginal unit, we're getting some economic surplus from as a society as a whole. And so we can add all those up like so, and we can color in that whole triangle, and that will be our total economic surplus in green. Doesn't matter who it's going to, we're just adding it up for society. So green equals total economic surplus. All right. So let's calculate this out real quick, the area of that triangle. And so we have a triangle, so we know it's 1/2 times base times height for the area of a triangle. Our base here will be from 0 to 200. Our height will be from 120 down to $10 where the supply curve crosses. So where the demand curve crosses the y-axis and the supply curve crosses the y-axis, that'll be 120 minus 10. All right, so you put that into your calculator, and we'll get 100 times 110, and so we'll get $11,000 here for total economic surplus. Okay. Now, this is the same graph that we used earlier to do producer surplus and consumer surplus. If we go back to consumer surplus was everything below to the demand curve, the marginal benefit to consumers of consuming that good, but above the price they have to pay. And so this upper half of this triangle, and I guess it's more than half, this upper triangle, right, is going to be our consumer surplus. And that leaves everything else to be the producer surplus. Definition of producer surplus, everything below price, above marginal cost. And so I'm just going to color those in real quick for you. I'm just put some lines in there so you can get it. So of that green, right, the total, we can apportion that to the two different parties. The orange is going to go to consumers and consumer surplus. And the pink here is going to be going surplus going to producers for producer surplus. Like so. Okay, so here's the explanation of it. Next, let's do a practice question. Okay, on an exam, you get something that looks like this. Here's that graph of that Beyond Meat burger, supply and demand. And let's say that the price of a burger is going to be $1.50. So think supply demand equilibrium here. I want you to calculate that total surplus, total economic surplus for that entire market, given this graph. So once you pause here, take a few seconds to calculate that, and then I'll go through the answer. Okay, and so we're going to use our triangle formula here, 1/2 base times height. The triangle we're interested in will be everything below the demand curve, above the supply curve. So that green triangle there will be our total economic surplus. And we are looking then at a base going from 0 out to 400. And our height going from 350 down to 50 cents. All right, so we can put that into our calculator. And we would get total economic surplus here equal to $600. Another way I could ask you this question for economic surpluses would be to have you give me letters for areas of the graph instead of having you calculate it out. And so here we have a simple supply and demand graph, right? Supply, demand. And I'm going to have these letters are pointing out different areas on this curve, right? And so this is going to be the market for mechanical pencils at the equilibrium price. So we're talking about supply crossing demand here at a price of D and a quantity right here, right? This market's total producer and consumer surplus equals what area? So I'm asking you for the total surplus here. And you know that the total surplus is going to be everything below demand and above supply up until that quantity that's sold. And so we're looking for this area of this triangle here. Like so, right? And so then you say, okay, what's that area? What letters are the vertices of that area? And so we have A, I, F, okay? Would be that area of that triangle. So our answer here would be B. So why don't you practice this trying to find the areas of consumer surplus and producer surplus using these letters here. And so pause here and take a few seconds to find consumer surplus and producer surplus. And I should say this is going to be your price is going to be at that letter D here. So here's your price curve right there to split it. So pause there, take a few seconds. All right, consumer surplus, we'll do this in orange. That's everything above the price but below demand. So there we're going to use A again. We'll use I, and then we'll use D. Right? And so you can use AID, ADI, whatever. It doesn't matter. Those letters over here, it'll always be multiple choice for you. And so you can just pick the letters that correspond. If we want to do producer surplus, we're looking for this area down here below the price but above supply. We'll use D, we'll use I, and we'll use F. D, I, F for that curve. Okay. All right. So this is just another way to test your knowledge of calculating areas of consumer producer total surplus without having you have to go through that arithmetic.